The message arrived at 3 in the morning on a cold Tuesday. Park was sleeping in his small cabin on his old cargo ship when his tablet made a sound. He almost ignored it. Most of his messages were bills he could not pay or advertisements for things he could not afford. But something made him look. Maybe it was luck, maybe it was fate, or maybe he was just too tired to make good decisions. The message was simple. It said there was an auction for an old spaceship at Orbital Station Gamma 7. The starting price was 2,000 galactic credits. That was all the money had saved in 3 years of hard work. Was 32 years old. He had been hauling cargo across the galaxy for 10 years. His ship was old and broken. Every time he flew through a jump gate, the engine made terrible sounds. Other pilots laughed at his ship. They called it a flying coffin. He made his living carrying things nobody else wanted to carry. Fertilizer, waste materials, cheap goods for poor colonies. It was honest work, but it paid almost nothing. He was always one bad month away from losing everything. 2,000 credits for a ship. It seemed too good to be true. Read the message again. The ship was called the Wanderer. There was no picture, no description of what kind of ship it was, just a name and a price. He should have been suspicious. Good ships cost millions of credits. Even broken ships usually cost more than 2,000, but was desperate. His current ship would not last another year. If he did not find something better, his career was over. He made his decision in the middle of the night, half asleep and full of hope. He would go to the auction. He would buy this ship. His life would finally change. 3 days later, arrived at Orbital Station Gamma 7. The station was old and ugly. It floated in empty space, far from any planet or trade route. The metal walls were covered in rust. The lights flickered constantly. Most of the shops and businesses had closed long ago. Only a few desperate traders and travelers passed through anymore. Followed the signs to the auction hall. His boots echoed on the metal floor. He did not see anyone else walking in the same direction. The auction hall was a large room with high ceilings and rows of empty chairs. Stood at the entrance and looked around. He saw no one, not a single person. At the far end of the room, there was a counter made of scratched plastic. A woman sat behind it, looking at a tablet. She did not look up when entered. He walked across the empty room. His footsteps were the only sound. When he reached the counter, he cleared his throat. "I am here for the auction," he said. "For the ship called the Wanderer." The woman finally looked up. Her name tag said dispatcher. She had tired eyes and gray hair. She looked like she was seeing a ghost. "You are here for the Wanderer," she repeated. It was not a question. "Yes. Is the auction starting soon? Am I early?" Put down her tablet. She studied his face for a long moment. "You are not early. You are the only one." "The only one?" Looked around the empty room again. "No other bidders?" "The Wanderer has been up for auction 17 times, said. Her voice was flat and tired. 17 times over 20 years. Every single time the bidders have withdrawn before the final registration. Every single time the room has been empty. Felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "Why? What is wrong with the ship?" Leaned forward. She lowered her voice even though there was no one else to hear. "That ship is cursed. Everyone who has tried to claim it has disappeared. 14 salvage teams sent to investigate. All gone. No bodies, no messages, just gone." "Disappeared? How is that possible?" "Nobody knows. The Galactic Authority gave up trying to understand. They labeled it a cursed vessel and stopped sending people. But they are legally required to auction it every year. So they do," she shrugged. "And every year nobody buys it." Stood in silence. His heart was beating fast. Every smart part of his brain was telling him to walk away, to forget about this ship and find another way to save his career. But another part of him, a desperate and hungry part, was asking different questions. Why would a cursed ship be worth only 2,000 credits? What if the curse was just a story? What if this was his only chance? "What kind of ship is it?" he asked. "Big," said. "Almost a kilometer long, made of materials nobody can identify. The design does not match any known species, not human, not any of the council races, something older." "How old?" "The Authority estimates at least 3,000 years, maybe more. 3,000 years. Tried to imagine a ship that old." Humans had only been traveling between stars for 400 years. This ship was ancient before his ancestors left Earth. "Why is it so cheap?" he asked. "Because nobody wants it, because everyone who touches it vanishes, because the authority just wants it off their records," picked up her tablet again. "Look, I am required to tell you these things. I am also required to let you buy it if you want, but I am asking you, human to human, please walk away. This ship has eaten 14 teams. Do not become number 15. Thought about his dying shuttle. He thought about the lone sharks who sent him threatening messages every week. He thought about spending another decade hauling garbage across the galaxy, watching his life slowly disappear. He thought about his mother, who had worked in a factory until her body gave out. He thought about his father, who had died in a mining accident when was 12. He thought about all the promises he had made to himself about having a better life. "I will take it," he said. Stared at him. "Did you hear what I just told you?" "I heard. I will take it anyway." "You are either very brave or very stupid." Smiled, but there was no happiness in it. "Probably both." Sighed, she pulled out a stack of papers and a small device for scanning fingerprints. "Sign here, here, and here. Press your thumb there, and here is the access code for the ship's location." Signed everything. His hand was shaking slightly, but he did not stop. When he was finished, handed him a small data chip. "The ship is in holding area 7, about 2 hours from here by shuttle." She paused. "Good luck, Park. I hope you find whatever you are looking for." "Thank you." He turned and walked toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the empty room. Behind him, watched him go with sad eyes. She had seen this before. Desperate people making desperate choices. Usually it ended badly. But something about this one felt different. She could not explain why. There was something in his eyes, not just desperation, something else. Hope maybe, or stubbornness, or both. She shook her head and returned to her tablet. It was not her job to save people from their own decisions. She had done her duty. She had warned him. Whatever happened next was not her responsibility. But later that night, alone in her small quarters, found herself thinking about the young cargo hauler with the tired eyes and the shaking hands. She found herself hopping against all evidence and experience that this time would be different. This time, maybe someone would come back. The Wanderer hung in the darkness of space like a sleeping giant, saw it through the window of his old shuttle and felt his breath catch in his chest. He had seen many ships in his 10 years of hauling cargo. He had seen military destroyers and luxury cruisers and massive cargo freighters, but he had never seen anything like this. The ship was nearly a kilometer long. Its hull was made of a dark material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The design was strange and beautiful. Curves flowed into angles in ways that made no sense to his eyes. It looked like something from a dream or maybe a nightmare. No markings, no flags, no identification numbers. Just smooth, dark metal stretching into the void. Guided his shuttle closer. His old ship groaned and shuddered, complaining about the effort. The Wanderer did not move. It just floated there, silent and patient, like it had been waiting for something. Or someone. He found an airlock on the side of the great ship. It took him 3 tries to connect his shuttle properly. His hands were sweating inside his gloves. His heart was beating too fast. When the connection was secure, put on his spacesuit. He checked his oxygen 3 times. He made sure his emergency beacon was working. If something went wrong, he could press a button and call for help. Not that help would come quickly. He was 2 hours from the nearest station. If the ship was as dangerous as said, 2 hours might as well be 2 years. He opened the airlock and stepped through. The moment his boot touched the floor of the Wanderer, lights turned on. Froze, he had expected darkness. He had expected dead systems and cold metal. Instead, soft amber lights glowed along the walls, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. The air was warm even through his suit. The metal under his feet vibrated slightly, as if the ship was breathing. "Hello!" His voice echoed through the corridor ahead. "Is anyone there?" Silence, then a voice. "Hello, Park!" He jumped backward, nearly falling. The voice came from everywhere at once, from the walls, from the floor, from the lights themselves. It was warm and gentle, like a mother speaking to a child. It spoke perfect Korean with an accent he did not recognize. "Who are you?" pulled the emergency beacon from his belt. His finger hovered over the butt. "Where are you?" "I am the wanderer. I am all around you. I am the walls you touch. I am the air you breathe. I am the light you see." "You are the ship." "I am the ship, and I have been waiting for you." Did not know what to say. Ships did not talk. Ships were machines, tools, things to be used and repaired. They did not have voices. They did not wait for people. "The people who came before me," he said slowly. "The salvage teams, what happened to them?" "They came with cutting tools. They came with extraction equipment. They saw me as a dead thing to be torn apart and sold." The lights dimmed slightly. "I am not dead. I was sleeping. I chose not to wake for them." "And what happened when they tried to take you apart?" "I moved them somewhere else." "Where?" "Somewhere safe. Somewhere they could not hurt me. They are alive. They are simply far away." Thought about this. 14 teams of salvagers transported somewhere by a ship that could think and feel. It should have terrified him. But somehow, standing in the warm light, listening to the gentle voice, he felt more curious than afraid. "But you woke up for me," he said. "Why?" "You came alone. You came with nothing but hope and fear. You did not bring weapons or tools. You did not look at me and see profit." The voice softened. "You walked into my corridors and said hello. You asked if anyone was there. That is unusual. In 3,000 years of drifting through space, you are the first being to treat me like a person instead of a prize." Lowered his hand from the emergency beacon. He stood in the corridor, surrounded by soft light, and made a decision. Maybe it was stupid. Maybe it was the same desperate thinking that had brought him here in the first place, but he had come too far to turn back now. "What are you?" he asked. "Who made you?" "Come to the bridge. I will show you everything." The corridor ahead lit up, guiding him forward. Took a deep breath and started walking. The inside of the ship was like a maze from another world. Corridors branched in strange directions. Rooms opened onto spaces that seemed too large to fit inside the hull. Stairs curved upward and downward, leading to levels that should not exist. But the lights were always there, guiding him, showing him which way to go. After what felt like an hour, reached the bridge. It was not like any bridge he had ever seen. There were no control panels, no screens, no chairs for crew members. Instead, there was a single raised platform in the center of a vast room. The walls were transparent, showing the stars outside in perfect clarity. It felt like standing in the middle of space itself. On the platform sat a single chair. "Sit," the voice said. "Let me show you who I was, who I am." Climbed onto the platform. The chair was made of the same dark material as the hull, but it was soft and warm when he touched it. He sat down. The moment his body settled into the chair, the universe changed. Images exploded around him, faces of beings he had never seen, cities that reached into clouds of purple gas, ships that flew through the hearts of stars. 1,000 worlds, 1,000,000 years of history, all compressed into a single moment of overwhelming vision. He screamed. His head felt like it was going to split open. The images slowed. The pressure eased. The voice of the ship returned, gentle and apologetic. "I am sorry. I have not had a passenger in a very long time. I forgot how fragile your minds are." "What was that?" gasped. His hands were gripping the arms of the chair so hard that his knuckles were white. "That was my memory, my archive. I was built to collect and preserve the knowledge of civilizations. I was built to remember." "Remember what?" "Everything." The voice carried a weight of ancient sadness. "I remember the beings who created me. I remember the worlds that have died. I remember the mistakes that were made and the warnings that were ignored." The images around him shifted. Now he saw a single face, a being with crystalline skin and eyes that glowed like small suns. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "This is one of the builders," the ship said. "They created me 3,000 years ago. They were the most advanced species in the galaxy at that time. They could bend space and time. They could live for 10,000 years. They believed they would last forever." "What happened to them?" "They died, all of them, every single one. The image faded, and they were not the first. They were not the last. More faces appeared. More beings. Some looked almost human. Some were like nothing could imagine. Giants made of living metal. Swarms of tiny creatures that moved as one mind. shadows that whispered secrets across the darkness. One by one, the ship named them. One by one, the ship said the same word. Extinct! How? Whispered. How did they all die? They died because they were alone. They died because they did not listen. They died because they believed they were special. The lights around him pulsed with something like grief. They died because of what is coming, the same thing that is coming for your people now. What is coming? The ship paused. When it spoke again, its voice was very quiet. Come back tomorrow, rest tonight, eat, sleep. When you are ready, I will tell you everything. I will show you the darkness that eats stars, and I will tell you what you must do to stop it. Why me? Asked. I am nobody. I am just a cargo hauler. I am not a soldier or a scientist or a leader. That is exactly why it must be you. The lights brightened around him, warm and welcoming. Sleep now, Park. You have a long journey ahead, and for the first time in 3,000 years, I am glad to not be alone. Sat in the chair, surrounded by stars and ancient memories. He should have been terrified. He should have run back to his shuttle and flown away as fast as he could. But instead, he felt something strange growing in his chest. Hope! He closed his eyes and let the ship's warmth wrap around him like a blanket. Tomorrow, he would learn about the darkness. Tomorrow, he would face whatever was coming. But tonight, for the first time in years, Park did not feel alone. Woke up in a small room he did not recognize. The walls were curved and smooth, made of the same dark material as the rest of the ship. Soft light glowed from hidden places. A bed had formed from the floor itself, shaped perfectly to his body. It was the most comfortable sleep he had ever had. He sat up slowly. His body felt strange. Good strange. The aches in his back from years of sleeping on his broken shuttle were gone. The headache he always had from breathing recycled air had disappeared. Good morning, Park. The ship's voice came from everywhere, gentle and warm. Did you sleep well? Yes, he said. Better than I have slept in years. How is that possible? This room adjusts to the needs of its occupant. It heals small injuries. It removes toxins from the blood. It repairs the damage caused by stress and poor nutrition. You healed me while I slept. I made small improvements. Your body was very tired. It needed help. Stood up and stretched. He felt 10 years younger, strong, alert, ready for whatever came next. Thank you, he said. It felt strange to thank a ship. But the Wanderer was not just a ship anymore. It was something more. You are welcome. Now, if you are ready, I will show you why I have been waiting. I will show you the reason I was built. Nodded. I am ready. He followed the lights back to the bridge. The transparent walls still showed the stars outside, cold and beautiful. The chair waited for him on its platform. This time, when sat down, the images came slowly. Gently, the ship had learned from yesterday. The first image showed a galaxy. Billions of stars swirling in a great spiral of light. This is the Milky Way, the ship said. Your home, my home. The birthplace of more than 10,000 intelligent species over the past billion years. 10,000, said, but the Galactic Council only has 12 member races. 12 races alive today. The ship's voice grew heavy. 10,000 have risen and fallen. 10,000 have built civilizations, explored the stars, and then disappeared. Disappeared how? The image zoomed in on one part of the galaxy, a cluster of stars in the outer rim. As watched, something dark moved through the cluster, something that ate the light. This is the silence. What is it? It comes from the void between galaxies, from the empty darkness where no stars shine. It feeds on intelligent life, on consciousness itself. When it finds a civilization, it does not destroy it. It consumes it. Every thought, every memory, every dream, gone. Felt cold despite the warmth of the room. How long has it been here? 40,000 years. It moves slowly, deliberately. It is patient beyond anything your species can imagine. And it has been eating civilizations for 40,000 years. Yes! New images appeared. The beings had seen yesterday, the builders with their crystal skin, the shadow creatures, the living metal giants. One by one, the ship showed their worlds, their cities, their achievements. And then it showed their ends. The builders were the first, the ship said. They detected the silence coming. They tried to fight it. They built weapons that could crack planets and tear holes in space. None of it worked. Watched as crystal cities crumbled, as millions of beautiful beings fell silent and still, as their light went out. The thought collective came next. They believed they could communicate with the silence, negotiate with it, understand it. The ship showed a world covered in organic towers, pulsing with shared consciousness. They opened their minds to the darkness. The darkness ate them in a single day. More civilizations, more failures. Some tried to run, some tried to hide. Some tried to become so powerful that nothing could threaten them. They all died, the ship said, every single one. For 40,000 years, the silence has moved through this galaxy. And for 40,000 years, no one has stopped it. Why not? Asked. His voice was barely a whisper. They were so advanced, so powerful. Why could none of them stop it? Because they all made the same mistake. What mistake? The images changed. Now saw something different. Not civilizations dying, but civilizations living, meeting each other among the stars, making first contact, and then turning away. Each species believed it was special, the ship explained. Each one looked at the others and saw rivals instead of allies. They hoarded their knowledge. They kept their secrets. They built walls instead of bridges. Watched as ships from different worlds passed each other without speaking. As opportunities for cooperation were ignored. As distrust and pride poisoned every relationship. When the silence came, each civilization stood alone. They fought alone. They died alone. And because they were alone, they fell. And now it is coming for us, said. For humans, for the council races. Yes, the ship showed the current map of the galaxy. The darkness was closer now, much closer. In 300 years, it will reach human space. In 400 years, every intelligent species in the Galactic Council will be gone. Sat in silence. 300 years. It seemed like a long time, but civilizations thought in longer terms than individuals. 300 years was nothing to a species. Is there any way to stop it? He asked. Any way at all? The builders did not know, the thought collective did not know, but they left me this. The ship's voice grew stronger. They left me to remember, to collect, to wait. Wait for what? For someone who could do what they could not. And what is that? Unite them, all of them. Every species in this galaxy, every civilization that has ever been too proud to ask for help. Someone must bring them together. Someone must make them see that they will die alone, but they might survive together. Laughed. It was not a happy laugh. Me? You want me to unite the galaxy? I am a cargo hauler. I barely graduated from school. I cannot even keep my own ship running. That is why it must be you. That makes no sense. The great civilizations failed because they were too proud. They believed they were special. They believed they had all the answers. The ship's voice softened. You do not believe these things. You know you are small. You know you need help. You are not ashamed to ask for it. Being weak is not a strength. No, but knowing you are weak is. The beings I have ever carried were the ones who knew how much they did not know. Stared at the map of the galaxy. At the darkness moving through it. At the 12 races of the Galactic Council, scattered across thousands of worlds, knowing nothing of what was coming. They will not listen to me, he said. The Council races hate each other. They barely cooperate on trade agreements. They fight wars over resource planets. They will never unite against a threat they cannot see. Then you must make them see. How? I will give you everything, every record, every technology, every secret of every dead civilization. You will bring the truth to the galaxy. You will show them what is coming, and then you will give them a choice. What choice? To stand together and live, or to stand alone and die. Sat in the chair for a long time. The stars wheeled slowly outside the transparent walls. The weight of 3,000 years of memory pressed down on him. He was nobody. A failed cargo hauler with no money and no connections. The idea that he could change anything was absurd. But then he thought about his mother, working in that factory until her hands were ruined, never complaining, never giving up. He thought about his father, going down into those mines every day, knowing the dangers, doing it anyway. They had been nobody too, small people in a big universe, but they had never stopped trying. Okay, said finally, tell me what to do. The ship's lights brightened. Something like joy filled the air. First, we will prepare. I will teach you everything you need to know. Then we will go to the Galactic Council. And then, Park, we will change the course of history. Closed his eyes, 300 years until the darkness arrived. It was not much time, but it was enough. It had to be enough. 3 months had passed since bought the Wanderer. 3 months of learning, 3 months of preparation, 3 months of the ship pouring knowledge into his mind until he thought his head would explode. He had learned languages dead for 10,000 years. He had studied technologies that made modern science look like children playing with toys. He had read the last words of civilizations that had seen the darkness coming and could not stop it. Now he stood in the entrance hall of the Galactic Council building on Central Station, wearing borrowed clothes and trying not to throw up from nervousness. The hall was enormous. The ceiling rose so high that clouds actually formed near the top, drifting slowly in the artificial air currents. Representatives from all 12-member races walked across the polished floors, surrounded by assistants and guards and floating camera drones. Felt very small and very human. A woman approached him. She was Korean, about 40 years old, wearing the formal uniform of the Human Diplomatic Corps. Her face was tight with worry. "Park," she said, "it was not a greeting, it was an accusation. I am Ambassador, the human representative to the Council. Thank you for seeing me," said. "I did not have a choice. You sent a message to every news network in Council space claiming to have evidence of an extinction-level threat. Half the galaxy is watching to see what you will say." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "If this is a joke or a scam, you will destroy humanity's reputation. We have spent 200 years building relationships with the other races. One crazy person could ruin everything. It is not a joke. Then what is it?" Looked at her, he saw the fear in her eyes, the pressure she was under, the weight of representing all of humanity in a galaxy full of races that had been traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves. "Come with me to the council chamber," he said. "Listen to what I have to say, then decide if I am crazy." The council chamber was a circular room designed by committee. Each of the 12 races had demanded input on the design, so the result was a compromise that satisfied no one. 12 elevated platforms surrounded a central speaking area. Each platform held the representatives of one race. Walked to the center of the room. He felt the eyes of 100 beings on him, some curious, some hostile, some bored. The representative spoke first. There were massive creatures, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in thick gray hide. They had been the dominant military power in the galaxy for 1,000 years. "This is the human who claims to have discovered an ancient ship," the rumbled. His voice was like thunder. "The same ship that has swallowed 14 salvage teams. Why should we believe anything he says?" "You should not believe me," replied. His voice was steady, even though his heart was pounding. "You should believe the evidence." He pressed a button on the device in his hand. The ship had given it to him, loaded with everything he needed. Holographic images filled the chamber. Star maps, historical records, images of dead civilizations and their dying worlds. The representative stirred and muttered as the information scrolled past. "What is this?" clicked the ambassador. There were insect-like creatures with multiple eyes and sharp mandibles. They controlled most of the galaxy's trade networks. "This is the archive of the ship called the Wanderer," said. "It was built 3,000 years ago by a species called the Builders. They created it to preserve knowledge, to remember what was lost, to warn those who came after." "Warn us about what?" Changed the image. Now the chamber showed a map of the galaxy with a dark shadow moving through it. "This is called the Silence. It comes from the void between galaxies. It feeds on intelligent life. It has been moving through our galaxy for 40,000 years. Every civilization that has encountered it has been destroyed." Silence fell over the chamber, then laughter. "The Silence is a legend," said the representative. There were slender beings with silver skin and large eyes. They were famous for their scientists and their arrogance. "A story told to frighten children. There is no evidence that such a thing exists." "There was no evidence because everyone who encountered it died," said. "The Builders fought it, they lost. The Thought Collective tried to understand it. They were consumed in a single day. The Void Singers tried to hide from it. It found them anyway." He showed them more images. Dead worlds, empty cities, the remains of civilizations that had been powerful beyond imagination. This is fantasy, they insisted. There is no proof that any of these civilizations ever existed. There is proof. The ship's archive contains detailed records, scientific data, historical documents, technology that is thousands of years more advanced than anything we have today. Then you are a fraud. You created this fake evidence to gain attention. Had expected this. The ship had warned him that the first response would be denial. Nobody wanted to believe that something terrible was coming. Nobody wanted to face the possibility of extinction. I am not asking you to believe me, he said. I am asking you to investigate. Send your scientists to examine the ship. Send your experts to study the records. I am hiding nothing. And while we waste time investigating your hoax, what will you be doing? I will be releasing the archive to the public. The chamber erupted. Representatives shouted over each other. Some demanded he be arrested. Others called for immediate investigation. The noise was overwhelming. Stood in the center of it all and waited. When the shouting finally died down, Ambassador spoke from the human platform. Her voice was cold. You cannot release classified information without council approval. It is not classified. It was never in council hands. It belongs to a ship that I legally purchased. And in exactly 1 hour, I will transmit the entire archive to every public information network in council space. This is blackmail. No, it is transparency. Looked around the chamber. Every species in this room has secrets, technologies you hide, weapons you develop in secret, knowledge you believe gives you power over others. The civilizations in this archive had secrets too. They died protecting them. He paused. Let the words sink in. The silence does not care about your secrets. It does not care about your politics or your history or your rivalries. It will consume all of you equally, unless you learn to work together. Work together, the representative laughed. Humans have been part of the galactic community for 200 years. You are children compared to us. What makes you think you have the right to lecture us about cooperation? I have no right. I have only the truth. What you do with it is your choice. The hour passed quickly. True to his word, transmitted the archive. In moments, the information was spreading across the galaxy. News networks, social media, scientific databases, everywhere. The council was furious, was arrested. He spent 2 weeks in a holding cell while the galaxy exploded with arguments and accusations and fear. But he was not worried. He knew what would happen next. Scientists would examine the evidence. They would confirm it was real. Governments would panic. People would demand answers. And eventually, someone would start asking the right questions. How do we fight this? How do we survive? And when they asked, would have an answer. Together! It was the only answer that had ever worked. Now he just had to convince the galaxy to believe it. From his cell, watched the news feeds, protests on a dozen worlds, scientists confirming the authenticity of the archive, politicians arguing about what to do. It was chaos, but it was also hope. For the first time in 40,000 years, the galaxy was talking about the silence. And talking was the first step toward fighting. 1 year had passed since released the archive. It had been the hardest year of his life. Harder than hauling cargo on a dying ship. Harder than watching his savings disappear. Harder than anything he had ever imagined. 3 people had tried to kill him. An assassin with a poison needle. A soldier who believed was lying to start a war. A human extremist who thought he was an alien spy. He had survived, barely. Now he had scars on his shoulder and his ribs and his left hand. Now he moved carefully, always watching for danger. But the galaxy had changed. Stood on the bridge of the Wanderer, watching the stars through the transparent walls. But he was not looking at the stars. He was looking at what was being built among them. Ships, hundreds of ships, massive vessels constructed in orbital shipyards above a dozen different worlds. They were being built by teams from every council race working together. Engineers next to technicians, human designers collaborating with scientists. It was messy, they argued constantly. Sometimes the arguments turned into fights. Progress was slow and frustrating. But it was happening. A door opened behind him. A woman walked onto the bridge and stood beside him. Her name was Han. She was 35 years old, with short black hair and sharp eyes. 6 months ago, she had been a Galactic Authority investigator assigned to arrest him. Now she was his second-in-command. "The morning reports are in," she said. "Shipyard 7 finished another destroyer. Shipyard 3 is having problems with their power cores. The almost came to blows over the weapons systems again." Again! "The want bigger guns. The want smarter targeting systems. Neither side will compromise." "Side, some problems never changed." "What about the science teams?" "Some progress. They think they understand how the silence moves. It does not travel through normal space. It slides between dimensions. That is why traditional weapons do not work against it." "Can they build weapons that will work?" "Maybe. They are combining technology from the archive with modern systems. It is slow work." Paused. "You know this probably will not be enough." Did not turn from the window. "I know. The silence destroyed civilizations that were more advanced than us. They had more time to prepare, better technology, thousands of years of experience." "I know. So why do you still look hopeful?" Finally turned to face her. Behind him, through the transparent walls, a cruiser drifted past. On its hull, beside the traditional war symbols, someone had painted the flags of 6 different species. A small thing, a tiny act of unity. "Because those civilizations were stronger than us," he said. "Smarter than us, more advanced in every way, but they all had one thing in common." "What?" "They believed they were good enough alone." He watched through the window as a team of engineers from 3 different species worked on the hull of a new ship. A was welding something while a human held the material in place. A checked the readings on a diagnostic device and called out corrections. "Humans have never been the strongest or the," continued. "We have always known we need help. We have always known we cannot do everything ourselves." "You think that is why the ship chose you?" Smiled slightly. "The ship says it chose me because I asked questions, because I treated it like a person instead of a thing. Maybe that is the same idea." Stood beside him in silence for a moment. Then she asked the question she had been avoiding for months. "Do you really believe we can win?" "I believe we can try," turned back to the window. "The civilizations in the archive gave up before the fight even started. They saw the silence coming and they despaired. They stopped hopping. They stopped working. They waited to die." "Can you blame them? They had seen what it could do." "No, but I can choose differently." He placed his hand on the transparent wall. Outside, the fleet continued to grow. "Maybe we will lose. Maybe in 300 years, humans will be gone. They will be gone. The end, everyone else will be gone." "That is not very encouraging." "But maybe not. Maybe this time is different. Maybe the fact that we are not the greatest civilization in the galaxy is exactly what will save us." He looked at her. "The builders were so advanced that they could not imagine asking for help. The thought collective was so intelligent that they thought they could solve everything with their minds. We are not like that. We are just desperate." "Yes, and desperate people do desperate things, like sharing secrets they have kept for centuries. Like working with enemies they have hated for generations, like trusting strangers with their survival." Was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "When you put it that way, we almost sound brave. Maybe we are. Or maybe we are just too stubborn to know when to quit." The ship's voice joined their conversation, warm and gentle as always. "I have watched many species face the silence. None of them did what you are doing. None of them built what you are building." "Is that good or bad?" asked. "It means I do not know what will happen. For the first time in 3,000 years, I am uncertain." A pause. "I find that I enjoy the feeling." Laughed. It surprised him. He had not laughed in weeks. "You enjoy not knowing?" "I have known too much for too long. Every species I have carried believed they understood the future. They were always wrong, but they never doubted. You humans doubt everything. You worry and argue and change your minds constantly. It is exhausting to watch." But it also means you are still learning, still growing, still capable of surprising yourselves." The builders could not be surprised. They had calculated every possibility. They knew exactly how they would die. The ship's voice grew thoughtful. "You do not know how you will live. I think that makes all the difference." Outside the window, another ship left the construction dock. It was a beautiful vessel, sleek and powerful, built using designs from 5 different civilizations. Its hull shimmered with technology that had been secret yesterday and was shared today. Somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, the silence continued its slow approach. It had consumed 10,000 civilizations. It had never been stopped. It had never even been slowed. But it had also never faced anything like this. Not a single species fighting alone. Not the greatest civilization in the galaxy trying to prove its superiority, but a collection of imperfect, frightened, stubborn beings who had looked at their own weakness and decided to make it a strength. Watched the fleet grow and felt something in his chest. Not confidence, not certainty, something better. Hope! He turned to. Send a message to the construction teams. Tell them we need more shipyards, and find me someone who can mediate between thee and the before they start another fight. Yes, sir, smiled slightly. Anything else? Yes, tell everyone that dinner is on me tonight. All species welcome. No arguments about food preferences. That will be a disaster. Probably, but we will figure it out together. Left to deliver the messages. Stayed on the bridge, watching the stars. 300 years until the silence arrived. 300 years to build something that had never existed before. 300 years to prove that the universe was wrong about the fate of intelligent life. It was not much time, but it was enough. It had to be enough. And for the first time in 40,000 years, the darkness moving between the stars was no longer the only thing out there. Something else was moving to meet it. Together!